Hey everyone, my name is Will. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Phonely, and today we are going to be going over a tutorial of outbound calling using Phonely's platform. Before we jump into this, I want to talk a little bit about compliance because I think it's really important when it comes to this use case. First things first, as a general rule, you shouldn't use AI to spam customers or as a way to cold call a bunch of people to try to increase your sales, conversions, etc. The reason why you shouldn't do this is number one, it's just not a very nice thing to do. Everybody hates spam calls, and we're not trying to create a platform that allows that. And then number two, there are TCPA regulations around what you can and what you can't do with outbound calling. This video is simply going to be on the technology and not what you can and can't do, but I highly recommend you checking out a little bit of what is acceptable to call using AI and what is not, and seek legal counsel if you haven't already done so. With that being said, Phonely does not take any liability or responsibility if you do make outbound calls using AI, and there is compliance issues that arise from that. Outbound calling with Phonely is a really valuable way to get a hold of your customers and automate your conversations at scale. This tutorial is a bit in depth because there's a lot of steps to go through. If you want to have somebody from our team help implement this for you on your behalf, we're more than happy to do so, and you can reach out to us and join our enterprise plan today. We can do the full build out and implementation all on your behalf and just give you reports of how well it is working for you. If you want to do it yourself, feel free to watch this tutorial all the way through. It's everything that you need to know in order to get outbound calling set up and running for the very first time. That being said, all that out of the way, let's jump right into how you can start outbound calling using Phonely's platform, how you can integrate it with your different tools from a webhook to a Google Sheets to CSV data upload, and you can use it in the platform to hopefully add a lot of value to your customers. All right, so first things first, to get to outbound calling, just go to this tab on the left that says outbound calls here, and then you're going to come up with a page that has this. So basically, if you look, we have two different parts here. We have call flows and we have campaigns, and creating an outbound flow or an outbound campaign inside of Phonely is really reflective of two different parts. The first part is the outbound calling flow itself. And so that's going to be very similar to a Phonely flow of how you're basically actually going to be interacting with this phone conversation. So to do that, you're going to use Phonely's Canvas editor that you can go through, build it up, ask the questions that you would need to ask, and then perform any actions that you will want to have there. The only thing that's different from this, from our inbound flow builder, which if you have experience with Phonely, you should check that out. If you don't have experience with Phonely's flow builder, I highly recommend you learn how to use that. There's other tutorials as well, is that we have this new block called make call. So this make call block has a couple of things with it. The first thing that has is a place to put the phone number in. So this number is going to be dynamic. What do I mean by that? Let's say that you have a list of people that you want to call, right? That number needs to change every single time it goes through somebody. And this can be something that's sent over to us maybe by Google Sheet, by an API, or by a CSV upload. So this phone number is going to be dynamic. You see how it has that little bubble around it? To put in that dynamic number, you can simply just create the variable that you want to do. Now, this one, you're always going to basically want it to be phone number. But if you want to create a new variable, an outbound variable, this is just going to be like a placeholder that we're going to hold that data in. So we're going to keep that blank. And then in our next step, we can go and populate that. So we can fill that with a dynamic variable. If we're going to do phone number, we want to do name, et cetera, et cetera. So right now we have the outbound variable that we've defined and created here as phone. So we select that, and this is our first variable. The next thing that we do as we go ahead and build this phone is we want to put in certain variables. So in this situation, if we hit a voicemail, we want to leave a voicemail message to let them know that, hey, look, we tried to call you and we hit a voicemail, and this is the message we're going to leave on the machine. In this situation, we're going to say, hi, we're calling to gauge your interest in property. Let's say this is a real estate. You're calling about interest in a property. Let's just say, call this variable property name. And we're going to add that variable there. And just like that, we can just add that variable. Now that variable is going to have some content filled in with it. So the way that you should design this is you should think about it as like, okay, what is the flow? What are the questions that I want? What are dynamic and what are static? The dynamic stuff is going to come from that request that we make when we send the call. It's like all the data that we pass in when we send the call. And the static information is going to be what's set out during the conversation. After we've gone through and we set that up, we use this like our traditional flow builder. The only thing that we have different on this is the ability to do what's called a redial. So because we're doing outbound calling, in some situations, let's say we don't get a hold of the customer and we want to recall them. So if we want to do that, we have the option to set a retry after, or we can just move them to a different campaign. So if we're running multiple different campaigns on Phonely, we can do that. And if we would rather just redraw them with the exact same script, we can do that. You can also override the voicemail message, so you're not doing the exact same voicemail message every single time. I know this is a lot to get into, and we're getting a little bit into the weeds here, but I just want you to know that Phonely has these capabilities, and we also have a couple other ones as well in the outbound calling that are just a little bit different. So send to a campaign, redial are the two that are going to be different from the outbound calling that you won't have seen in the inbound flow builder. All right, so now we've got this whole set up. We can go ahead and hit publish on that. And once we've hit publish on that, we can go back and we have our flow. Maybe I'll just rename this really quick. So we'll call this test flow. Just going to hit publish on that. All right, so now we've got our test flow set up. The next thing that we'll want to do is we're going to create a campaign. So I'm going to create a new campaign here to show you what the process is going to look like for you. To do that, simply click create campaign. I'm going to name this test campaign, and we're going to select a use case. This is for lead qualification, reaching out, just like I said before. We're going to be qualifying customers as soon as they fill out a form on Facebook, for example. The next thing that we need to do is we need to add phone numbers in. So one of the things with outbound calling that's going to be different than inbound calling is that you need to get your own phone number from Twilio, which is our partner with outbound calling. The reason why we have this set up is a couple of reasons. Basically, the biggest one is we're trying to protect ourselves from a compliance standpoint, so that you guys should appreciate this as well, that we don't want somebody logging into Phonely's account and bombing a million outbound calls to random people, and then everybody's account gets blocked. So we set this up so that you will create your own account on Twilio, and I'm going to walk you through how you can do that as well. Inside of this, we do have a couple settings. You can add multiple different numbers in here, and you can share the calls through this amongst the multiple different numbers. Why is that valuable? Well, if you've ever seen a spam likely, you could be calling for a legitimate use case, and you just called too many times on that number, and so this can help prevent that. The other thing that you can do is you can route based per state and based per country. So if you're calling in multiple different countries, multiple different regions, or multiple states, you can match the states and the countries together. To add a phone number to the campaign, we're going to click add phone number here, and then we're going to import this from Twilio. We're going to get the information from Twilio here. So to show you how to do that, we just head over to our Twilio tab, and then we're going to go to the API keys and tokens. To show you how to get there, we can go from the account dashboard. The easiest way to do it is just type in Sid, like Sid the Sloth, but not Sid the Sloth. You can go to general settings and then go to API key and auth token. So you're going to copy both of these, and then both of this information, you're going to copy and paste into Phonely, and then it's going to allow you to pull in the numbers. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. All right, so I've gone ahead and imported the numbers from Twilio, and it's going to show all of our available Twilio numbers here that we can use. If you want to go back in Twilio and add more numbers, what we can do is we can go back here. We can go to the numbers section inside of Twilio, which is right here, phone numbers. And we can do manage, and we can do buy a number. If we want to get a new number here, all we have to do is simply search for a new number and click buy. This is going to allow that as a new number. We're going to buy that number, and then that information is going to be synced back and forth with the Phonely account. So now, as you can see, there's those two different numbers that we can use in this conversation. So it's very simple to add multiple different numbers. To change those as well, you just manage that in Twilio, and then automatically updates inside of Phonely's platform. Pretty handy. We're going to just import this number for now for this campaign, but we can import as many as we want here. All right, so that number has now been added to this campaign. Since we only have one number, the weight is always going to be 100, but if we have multiple different numbers, let's just show you what that looks like. Let's say we add both of these to the campaign. As you can see here, we can change the weight 50-50 based on this. If we have multiple states, we can do, here's our California one, here's our New Jersey one. Those are going to be the two different numbers we're going to call. We're going to try to match if somebody has the same state with this same phone number, so maybe they're more likely to pick up. All right, so now that is done, we're going to set the call cadence. Call cadence is determined on the local time of the caller. So what does that mean? That basically just means that whatever time that we have set up here, so not of the caller, of the account, that's what it's going to be calling on. So if you set up and created your account in Eastern time, it's going to be Eastern time that it's using here. The reason why we don't do this on a location base of the customer is simply because we don't know where the customer is calling in. Why is this valuable? Well, this matters because there are certain compliance rules of when you can and when you can't outbound call. So it's really important that you understand that if you're calling customers, that it really affects where they're actually calling from, and make sure to set this up so that maybe it's a little bit lenient so you're not calling outside of hours. The other thing that we have here as well is we have a calls per hour throttle. So we can actually adjust how many calls we're going to make in any given hour. This, if you want to throttle it down and basically make it go slower, it can totally do that. And the way that it works is, let's say that we have a lead that's submitted outside of hours, it's going to get queued up. So that lead is going to get queued up, and then it's going to be called in the next iteration of whenever this turns on. And so that's basically how you do it. If you want to throttle how many calls are going out at the same time, you can adjust this calls per hour. You can always do that later as well as the campaign is running. The next thing that we do is we're going to get to the campaign campaign type. So we've got a couple different options here. First one is batch calling, which will allow you to upload a CSV file. That CSV file can be anything you want, and it's going to use the headers on that. So to show you what that looks like really quick, I can just go up here. All right, I just uploaded some CSV. So this is just an example usage report here from a CSV. But as you can see, I have these variables that come in. Now these variables are headers. So they're headers of that CSV. So these are all the headers that existed on this. This is just an invoice to give an example of what that looks like. But in this situation, I actually want to do continuous calling. So there's two different options. Batch calling is basically uploading a list first, and the phone is going to go boom, 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 call everyone at that time. But if you don't want to have to upload it every single time that you want to place calls and you want to just continuously be calling in the background, like a new lead comes in, automatically you want to place that call to reach out to that customer, then you can do a couple different ways. The two options that we support are via webhook, and the second one that we support is via Google Sheets. So for this example, we're just going to be showing you really quickly. So if you have a webhook set up, so this is a little bit more technical, but if you are using Phonely with an integration to your system, pretty much everything can push out a webhook. And what that's going to allow you to do is push data as soon as an event happens. So let's say somebody fills out a lead on Facebook. You can go into something like Zapier. You can go into NADN, make.com, or you can just directly integrate it with that provider to send the data over to Phonely. And that's going to allow you to send basically whatever you want. Just copy this URL. So this is the URL, and you want to hit that with data from Phonely. So that URL is going to basically allow you to pass anything across to it. In our situation, just to keep things simple, I'm just going to do that CSV update really quick here. So to just give us an example of some variables, but the concept is the same across it. So you're either sending data here somehow. This is a fixed one. If you're continuously calling, you can use something like Google Sheets or the webhook. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to select the call flow. That call flow we previously built, which was our test flow there. And then remember those outbound calls that those variables that we created? Well, we've got two of them now. We've got phone and we've got property name. Now those outbound variables were created inside of that flow. So then all we need to do is we need to map them to it. I'm just going to pretend that that's the phone that we wanted to map it to, and that's the other one. And so now those variables are mapped to each other. That basically means every single time we place a call, that data is going to get updated. So that phone number is going to be a new phone number. That property name is going to be a new property name, so on and so forth every single time. And we can do that with as many variables as we want, and we can adjust this and edit this going forward. The last bit as well here is just a general acknowledgement of compliance. So understanding the terms and conditions that AI is not to be used for illegitimate purposes, not to use for scamming. We are not checking the do not call list, and we are not on your behalf going to prevent any TCPA violations. We do have a certain list of people that we do maintain for our own sake that have potentially opted out to our service. And if any of those get triggered, if any of those numbers are being called, we do have the right to remove that from you actually placing them. So there's certain customers that potentially have asked to not be called using AI for whatever reason. We will actually remove them from our list, and there's no way that you can actually go ahead and call them using our service. This is not something that happens to a lot of them, but I do want to let you know this is the case. We will show that number in any situation when that is actually the case. So now we go ahead and hit publish. That campaign will pop up, and then we have this dashboard view. Now you're going to see some statistics of as the calls are actually going out. So you're going to see the number of calls that are queued, the number of calls that are in process, the number of calls that are completed, failed, and then how long till these calls are actually going to be done. You can edit any of the campaigns here, so you can change any of the information, adjust the variables, etc., etc. You can also view the call flow and edit that directly there, and you can export a usage report as the calls continue to go through. When you're ready to hit go, you simply just hit that start campaign button, and then that is going to have Phonely start calling your customers on our behalf and go through the whole process. All right, and that is the final tutorial of outbound calling. If this seemed like a lot of steps and a lot of work and a little bit confusing, and you don't want to spend the time to read through our documentation and learn yourself, we have an enterprise tier where we will set this up for you and automate your call campaigns. In most cases, this is 80 to 90% cheaper than having a person set it up and call it out themselves, and it'll hopefully save you a lot of time. The other thing that we do on our team is we optimize your agents for you. So we'll optimize that agent for whatever outcome you're looking to get. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely reach out to somebody on our sales team and they will get right back to you, and we can get you set up with an enterprise account right away. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video to the end. We can't wait to see what you automate with Phonely's platform, and we hope to see you in the next video. Thanks.